Hey y'all, it's me, Raheel. Today I'm passing the mic over to producer AK Al-Moumen. He sits down with two of the cast members in the theater performance of Clyde from the Ensemble Theatre. He's a big theater fan, so chatting with Michelle Elaine and Timothy Eric about the history of the Ensemble Theatre and what audiences can expect from the play Clyde only seemed natural. It's Wednesday, April 12th, 2023. I'm Raheel Ramznali, and here's what Houston's talking about today.
Michelle, Timothy, thank y'all so much for joining CityCast Houston this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I've been kind of a huge fan of everything that the ensemble has been doing. I follow y'all on Instagram, try to keep up with as much of the shows. And I was just, I guess my first question, Michelle, is I was always wondering, how did the ensemble come to be?
The Ensemble Theater legacy is, I would say, is African American voices on our stage from our perspective. And of course, they're global themes, but it's from our perspective with predominantly African American artists putting it out there for the world. So it's like our stories brought to you by us is what I would say in a nutshell. And George Hawkins is our founder. We were founded in 1976, and we weren't always at the location that we're at right now on Main Street. We used to be at 1010 2M, actually. But in 85, we moved to where we are right now, and now right next to the our own light rail stop, which is exciting. And we've been there ever since 85. And in addition to us telling our stories from our own voices, George Hawkins really wanted to make sure that this was a training center as well for Black artists to learn from the best, to hone their skills so that they could have those skills, perform them there, and go out into the world and be, fierce artists. So that education still works in the theater today, from our Young Performers program or the Bold Master classes that we offer from women professionals in the city and around the country, and workshops. It's just ongoing training from even our tour ed performances. Those are really our two kind of pillars at the Ensemble Theater.
That is amazing. And Timothy, because I know you have been there for a while. I don't want to say a long time, but you have been there for a while. And I was wondering, how did you get involved with this and its legacy and its history?
Yeah, the ensemble had a, very, just a great reputation. I was in college at Texas Southern University, which is not very far from the ensemble. And so that was a goal of all of the students, the undergrads there, was that one day we'll get to the ensemble, we'll be able to perform at the ensemble. It was, so it was the theater that you wanted to work at. And so I came to the ensemble in 94, working as a technician, actually. Started in doing some audio work for them, and then some light board operating, learning from their technical director at the time, Manny Impinduzi Mott. And so to Michelle's point, it worked out for me that way. I was able to pick up some foundational skills in technical theater. The idea being that acting jobs come very seldom, but technicians are always needed. And so that worked out. I was able to take those foundational skills that I learned there. I've worked in all of the theaters here in Houston, and all of that started with the ensemble. So yeah, it works, putting those kinds of tools and those kinds of skills out in the community for people who are inquisitive enough and curious enough to take a hold of those, and it does work. I'm living proof of it. Absolutely, yeah.
That's amazing. I worked as a tech for high school and college productions before, so I completely relate to the journey. The performance bug never captured me, but I was always fascinated by how theater's constructed and it's put together. And from that, Michelle, how do you believe that the Ensemble Theatre have had an impact on Houstonians?
I think the long standing legacy means to the community that they have a place to go. You know, we've been here this whole while and we're not going anywhere. And I think just anything that stands for a long time feels like home because you know it's trusted, it's tried and true. Um, our motto is that the E is for everyone and everyone counts, and we really try to embrace that in the community by literally welcoming in everyone. Though, as we said, this is a Black theater in its roots, that we're telling primarily our stories with Black artists. It's for everyone again because of those global themes. And I've heard from many community members that, you know, they'll never forget this performance or when we did this show. And how we do our talkbacks after the show. That's a really good glimpse, I think, into our communal kind of approach to theater, because we literally ask the audiences, what do you think? How did that impact you? And especially pre-COVID, you know, our artists were on the stage, and now we engage experts on the topic to engage the audience, and we have an exchange there. And to go beyond that, talk back to, okay, well, what does that look like in your life now? How did, this theme, especially with Clyde's, there's going to be a great opportunity to talk about how will you approach ex-convicts in the community differently now? How will you approach people who are reformed and having a kind of another second chance at life? How do you deal with your family members? Those type of things. And, from there, partnerships and alliances can form, and things that actually will make change in the community can happen.
Y'all just mentioned Clyde's, and that is your the newest play that y'all are going to put on at the Ensemble Theatre. It is, both of y'all are performing in it, and I was just, as you're going to be featured in this play, can you kind of just tell our audience what is Clyde's about?
Tim can tell you what Clyde's is about.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Clyde's is it's a really, really neat story. It is Lynn Nottage's I believe newest work, and I hope I'm right about that. But yeah, it takes place at a truck stop in Pennsylvania that is known for its sandwiches, or gaining popularity for its sandwiches, let's just say. And the staff, the cooks, are all ex-convicts. They've completed their sentences and now are trying to start over, rebuilding their lives. And it really just tells a really human side of that story, a story that we don't hear very often. We talk a lot about what happens on the front side with criminal justice reforms or criminal justice systems and improvements, and there's a lot of discourse about that. But often we don't consider what happens when someone has gone through that process, paid their debt to society, and now look to rebuild and start their lives again. And so it's a really human look at it. It's a funny play to watch and to enjoy, and also discuss that issue as well, about what to do in things to think about as a society when it comes to that population of people. So and I play one of the cooks. My character's name is Montrellis, and he's kind of the de facto leader of the cohort, so to speak. And Clyde, played by the beautiful Michelle Elaine, is she's the owner, obviously. And she has a more pragmatic approach to I'll let Michelle discuss that. But yeah, it is a very, very honest story with very authentic characters, and it's a beautiful experience. I think people will really enjoy it.
Yeah, it sounds, from everything I've read about the play, there's so many dynamics working in this diner setting, in this comedy. A lot of times I feel like people have a tendency to dismiss a lot of comedies as not producing the same heft as if you had a really melodramatic drama happening on stage. But from everything y'all are describing, all these dynamics, all of these like layers of humanity that are coming up from the systemic side and from the interpersonal side, I wonder, is that the biggest thing that attracted y'all's troupe to this story, to tell it to people, to bring it in an area like Houston?
Well, our artistic director, Eileen J. Morris, she actually saw it on Broadway. And I think, like everybody who saw it, whether in Chicago or Broadway, was just it instantly fell in love with it. Um, Anybody is lucky to do a Lynn Nottage piece, period, because she's a two-time Pulitzer winning playwright. But also on the theater level, it's diverse. It's got women and men, African Americans, Latino, Latinx, and a Caucasian male in it. So that already is going to broaden your audiences, because we're going to invite our families and our friends to come to the theater, and I think it's purposefully done that way. I think Lynn Nottage was like, no, let's show what it's like and there's a great line in the play that the prison is the great equalizer. So I think she was very wise in wanting people to see how our prison system and the process afterwards being introduced back into the community is a national issue. It's an American issue.
Yeah. It was a very, the process, because reading it, you kind of gravitate to the narratives and in everyone's story. There's a story happening in the diner, but everybody has their backstory. Well, how did you end up here? How did you end up here? And so, you naturally gravitate to that. And even as an actor during the process, kind of settling on those stories, they're hurtful, and then they're inspiring, and then they're sad, and it's a lot. But during that process, when we started to find the humor, it was, kind of challenging, because it's like, okay, we can turn this corner now. Okay, we've gone through all of the narrative, and now it's really just, in terms of telling the story, and it is funny, and it was challenging in that respect, because I didn't see that one coming.
That's amazing. That is a really poignant thought, that the idea that like when you're trying to tell a story through comedy, a lot of times you have to reconcile with the narrative initially and then kind of bring that individual humor to kind of the script, like your own sense of humor, correct, to the performance.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you spend 4 or 5 weeks in a process with a character, and it it starts to get close to you, but you only have a few minutes after you get in front of an audience, to make adjustments, because okay, this is what it is. This is because you don't know until you get it in front of an audience. Theater is a two-way thing, and so. Once we get it and feel the room and feel what's happening with how people are receiving it, then we'll know. But up until this time, it's kind of surfing.
I can attest to that as a longtime observer and fan of the ensemble. And I'm so happy we got to have this conversation. I'm so excited for people to go and experience Clyde. Michelle, Timothy, thank y'all so much for coming to talking to me today. I appreciate y'all for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you.
That was AK Al-Moumen, Michelle Elaine, and Timothy Eric. This week is the last weekend to check out Clyde's at the Ensemble Theatre. For tickets, check out our show notes. All right, before we go, this summer could be a bit cooler, but not because of the weather, because it's still going to be hot in Houston, but because more pools could be open this summer. Houston Parks and Rec announced a record 950 lifeguard recruits ahead of the 2023 pool season, but only 44 of those have completed necessary classes to be certified. The department will need about 200 of those 950 to take classes and be certified to open all 38 pools across the city for the public to use. There's been a shortage of lifeguards in the last couple of years across the city and the suburbs, and many places are still hiring for the pool season. So if you know somebody that needs a summer job, right now is the time to apply. That's all for today on CityCast Houston. Be sure to catch Thursday's episode where we invite an HEB obsessed fan to talk about what snacks you should have in your shopping cart on your next trip. I'm Rahil Ramsnali. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new. AK Al-Moumen, AK Al-Moumen, AK is the best.